ಹೊಲಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುವ ಜನಗಳ ಸಾಲು ಬೆಳಗಿನ ಜಾವದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಳಿಯ ಕೂಗು ಹೊಲಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುವ ಜನಗಳ ಸಾಲು ಬಿತ್ತುವ ಕಾಲ ಬೆಳೆಯುವ ಕಾಲ ನಮ್ಮೂರ ಜನರೆಲ್ಲ ದುಡಿಯುವ ಕಾಲ ನಮ್ಮೂರ ಜನರೆಲ್ಲ ದುಡಿಯುವ ಕಾಲ ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ಕೂರಿಗೆಯ ಹೊತ್ತಿರುವರು ವಿಧ ವಿಧದ ಬೀಜಗಳ ಬಿತ್ತಿರುವರು ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ಕೂರಿಗೆಯ ಹೊತ್ತಿರುವರು ವಿಧ ವಿಧದ ಬೀಜಗಳ ಬಿತ್ತಿರುವರು ಬಿತ್ತುವ ಕಾಲ ಬೆಳೆಯುವ ಕಾಲ ನಮ್ಮೂರ ಜನರೆಲ್ಲ ದುಡಿಯುವ ಕಾಲ ನಮ್ಮೂರ ಜನರೆಲ್ಲ ದುಡಿಯುವ ಕಾಲ.
In October 1999, 22 senior staff members and trainers from various Myrada project locations came together for a week at Myrada Kamasamudram project for their first experiential exposure to a process known as Appreciative Inquiry. The Canada-based International Institute for Sustainable Development raised a fund from DFID to make this workshop possible for Myrada, and 3 of their staff members also participated in it. Mette Jacobsgaard from Cambridge was the main facilitator. This video film was made over the period of the workshop in an attempt to share the process with others. Since the early 1980s, Myrada has been working with rural people to improve livelihoods using participatory processes. In the course of its work, Myrada has always demonstrated a commitment towards finding innovative approaches that can give people more and more space to express themselves and work in increasingly more comfortable institutional relationships. It was this that led to a widespread acceptance and practice of PRA methods within Myrada. It is this that has now led Myrada to explore the potential of appreciative inquiry in its work with rural communities. What is appreciative inquiry? It is an approach to organizational analysis and learning that is uniquely intended for discovering, understanding, and fostering innovations in social organization arrangements and processes. Let us take what usually happens when a development organization decides to work with deprived communities in any given area. It is often a fact that staff tend to begin by focusing on the local people's problems, constraints, deficiencies, and unmet needs.
What do you think are the limitations of a problems-based approach in development?
One of the reasons for this pressure to identify needs is how our projects are designed. Donors want a project fast. And in order to get a project, you can do it in 2 ways. You can sit in an office and do it. The little more responsible people go out and try to identify needs. But they have to do it fast, and they want a list of needs so that they can fit into a project pattern. And definitely it meets the donor's needs, but it creates expectations at the other end. And these expectations are surely a wrong starting point. And the impact, therefore, is point 1. High expectations that your needs will be met with. Secondly, the assumption that the outsider can meet with the need. Thirdly, the unwillingness then to really assess their own strengths. And fourthly, when you go then to ask them to start a process whereby they tell us what they can do, they get discouraged. If you adopt an approach where you're not looking at individual needs, but if you're going to look at strengths, you immediately get people to relate to one another. If you're looking at needs, you don't relate to one another. You say, I need a cow, or you need a goat, or you need a dog. But if you look at strengths, then people normally come together to say, yes, we can do this. Because in a way, they begin to call on other resources in order to show what they can do. So and I hope Appreciative Inquiry will really develop this line. I know it is open to it, but to me, I would like to see this develop far more.
A focus on strengths and adaptive strategies rather than problems and weaknesses results in a far more equitable, cooperative, and positive foundation on which community work can be based. Appreciation is the ability to see beyond obstacles, problems, and limitations, and to generate hope in the human capacity to achieve potential. Appreciative inquiry is an approach that enables such a process to be set in motion. Appreciative inquiry consists of 4 main phases that are interdependent and continuously revolving in a circle. This is usually referred to as the 4D cycle. The first D stands for discovery.
It is the phase where we discover what gives life, what gives excitement to our organization, to our project, to our interaction, in our human relationships. The very first questions that we ask are always, think of a time when you felt really excited about your work, in your relationship, or in teamwork, or tell a story of a time when the project was going really well. What happened? It's important to be specific, to tune into the environment, the context, who was there, who said what, and who did what.
The process of discovery can be facilitated through a key question like, can you think of a time when your group achieved something significant? What factors contributed to this achievement? Answers can be in the form of stories and pictorial representations. Drawing pictures is good because even non-literate people find ways of representing what is important to them, which can then become the basis for further analysis. This is how we did it in our classroom session, beginning with the question, what have been the best things about Myrada? Our large group was divided into 5 small groups, and each group answered by producing a chart of drawings. There were several other exercises that helped us discover peak moments in our organization and lives. There were cards filled in on what we felt we could do best, and stories told about times when we were most excited working for Myrada. Training coordinator Rajachari said he felt fulfilled when the bankers he had trained went back and actually formed self-help groups of poor people, something they had earlier regarded as someone else's job and not theirs.
Now at this stage, so there are 230 self-help groups they have formed with good intention, and 30% of the self-help groups they have already linked to the self-help groups. The repayment percentage is very high, 100% repayment they were able to mobilize from the self-help groups. So where the loans have given directly from the bank to the individuals, it is very, very low, the repayment percentage. By the groups, it is 100%. So the banks are also very happy, and the Myrada also very happy, and we are continuously supporting, and we are having contact with Kaveri Gramana Bank and Myrada. So this training impact is now known to the international level.
Vidya Ramchandran recalled an exercise that has continued to motivate her through the years. She was in a group where every participant had to write one positive statement about every other participant. Talking about it, she said,
Well, actually, I've saved my piece of paper. I participated in this exercise about 8 years ago or so. It's the only time I've been through it. And I still have my sheet of paper. A number of the people who wrote on it continue to be my colleagues. And I like to think that they continue to believe that I am what they wrote about me. on my sheet of paper, I had several people saying they could always approach me and I would help them, and I was cheerful, and when they felt depressed, they could come to me and I would cheer them up and all sorts of things. Sometimes I look at it, I feel a bit shy actually to look at it, but once in a while I sneak a look and feel good.
Following the classroom session on the discovery phase, all the participants attempted to use it in some of the villages of the Kamasamudram project. It took several hours for people to realize that we were not asking for their problems. We wanted to listen to something happy, something good, something that had made them feel like achievers. Once they understood this, people began to enjoy themselves. Bhulakshmi spoke of her panic when her group told her that she would be entitled to no benefit unless she learned to sign her name.
For a month, I used only my thumbprint in place of signature. Then my group reminded me and some of the others that we had not yet learned to sign and should do so. All the others learned, but I still couldn't manage it. Then they took us to Budikote. Rukkama held my hand and showed me how to write, but my hands and legs shook with fright. Everyone laughed at me. I had only one day left before the next meeting. What to do? That night I didn't sleep. I tried over and over again to write my name on Ragi. My husband laughed and said, "Aren't you ashamed? Even children can do it." Then suddenly I found I could write.
Chaudama's husband was a compulsive gambler who told her he would stop if she could actually catch him red-handed at it. After a year of plotting and spying, she and her group members finally caught him.
7 of us raided the den. When the men saw us, they started escaping from the other side. They ran one after the other, one after the other. One of them gathered all the playing cards and stuffed them into his pockets so that we would have no proof. 5 of them escaped, but 3 were caught. Some almost fell into a well nearby, but they managed to run anyway. We scolded them a lot. You being married men with children? Is this how you behave? How can you take your wives for granted? After that night, I watched my husband closely. For 9 days, he never went into town or spoke to anyone. He came back from work, ate, and slept. I know that since then he has never gambled. No one gambles in the village anymore. Gambling was quite rampant here before. Now, no one gambles.
The discovery stage is the start of the paradigm shift from problem orientation to achievement orientation. It creates good feelings and reinforces self-worth. It energizes people and forms the basis for embarking on the next of the 4 Ds. The second D in Appreciative Inquiry stands for dream. In this phase, we dream about what the future can be for us, based on the strengths we have discovered in us.
The dream stage of Appreciative Inquiry builds on the discovery stage we did yesterday. Yesterday, the group discovered what the organization looks like when it's at its best. Building on that, we asked them, what would the organization look like if it was always at its best? And stretching it even further to say, could you envision what might be in the future? So we have asked the participants to take a moment for themselves to think about what sort of wishes do they as individuals have for the organization. And building on that, combined with what they discovered yesterday, what it looks like when it's really at its best, we asked them to do what we call provocative propositions. The proposition is meant to be provocative, it's meant to be a challenge in the present tense, and also a place where they would like to go. Provocative because we believe that you can take a challenge. If you know that you've had success in the past, you are more likely to go with the challenge. And a challenge or a provocation, in a positive sense, will take you further, and it will especially take you further if you have it based on what you know already is. So it is not dreaming or envisioning like winning the lottery or something that is highly improbable. It is envisioning something that's built on what you already know, but still dreaming ahead of it. It has to be realistic. There's no point in saying we are on the moon. It has to be doable, but it has to be doable and still challenging.
We began to experiment on ourselves, with each participant making 3 wishes for Myrada.
My wish for Myrada is that all of us, each staff, everybody should have the same wish of having that complete difference in the village. So everybody should have the same wish. That is my wish for Myrada.
So connecting these two, I think Myrada should have a full-fledged training, professional training center in order to train them and to train the people in order to take up the responsibility and initiate the people to do development works.
We should not lose that focus of, we are working for a development as a family. Ultimately, those people with whom we are working should feel that Myrada is good.
These wishes were then consolidated in small groups, and each group came out with provocative propositions. One of the statements made by this group was that Myrada had established a policy consultancy cell related to rural development at the national level. After experiencing the dream phase in the classroom, we went back to the villages to try it out. We began by recollecting the previous day's events, dwelling on the strengths from the discovery stage. The process of talking about dreams was not very difficult for people to do. Their dreams were also rooted in their strengths and quite challenging. We agreed that they could express themselves in ways in which they felt comfortable. People were quite comfortable in making drawings to depict their dreams, like this group that drew a tree with various fruits representing their various dreams. Muni, Venkatamma and Nanjappa dream of seeing their daughter married and well settled. For this, they say,
our goal is to rear silkworms. We also have a dream of owning some irrigation facility. We can then grow enough mulberry for the silkworms, some paddy, vegetables and millets. With the income, we can get our daughter married.
Narasamma of Swati Self-Help Group said,
the men in this village drink, beat their wives. Their families never develop. Our group's goal is to stop this alcoholism.
The dream phase is important because it enables people to give a concrete shape to a vision of their future. The appreciative approach is based on an understanding of human psychology. People respond to positive images much better than to negative images. It also recognizes and creates space for emotions to be expressed and channelizes these emotions towards the achievement of their dreams.
We construct our own reality, and the way we construct our own reality is very important. If we hold negative images about ourselves or about what is going to happen in our lives, we are more likely to create a negative future and reality for ourselves. But if I praise you and say, I think you're doing really well, I really liked what you were doing, and so forth, you feel proud of yourself and you carry the knowledge of being able to do something. You create a positive picture for yourself, of yourself, and a positive future for yourself. You anticipate that something positive will happen.
We knew already our strengths, but we have not thought.
We can have some visions which may not be possible to achieve. But as you said in your theory session, If we make provocative propositions based on our strengths, we can achieve it. Looking back at our achievements, we realize that we took it as a challenge and we achieved it. We feel that if you believe, you can achieve.
Whatever we wanted to achieve, that we minded, we will achieve it. Yeah.
It's a confidence.
We have that much confidence.
Confidence.
So we end with that believing is achieving. If you believe, you will achieve.
After the dream phase, we come to the third D, which stands for design.
The design is making the dream come true, making the provocative proposition come true. It's okay having this proposition, but the next question you ask yourself is, what do you do with it? And that is going through the various stages. It's really a kind of implementation plan. What do we need to do as an organization or as a project or as a group in order to be able to fulfill this wonderful vision, this provocative proposition? So we asked the group to be as specific as possible and go through who is going to do what and when and how and what do you need to be able to achieve that. Be very, very practical.
In the classroom, we took some of the earlier developed provocative propositions and broke them down into sets of doable activities. Since all of us were familiar with planning, and since this was a training program, and in that sense not a real planning session, we did not spend much time on this activity in the classroom. We did, however, try it out in the villages. The fieldwork began by reflecting on people's dreams. Since there were many dreams, we spent some time in prioritizing them. In the group that worked with children, the design stage exercises almost could not be done, because though the children had expressed dreams that could certainly be achieved, they did not have enough information to plan their next steps. They needed more time and also the support of knowledgeable adults. This suggested an area of work for Myrada in the future. Lakshmi, a school student, dreamt of becoming a police officer.
I will pass my 10th standard with the first class and then go to Maharani's College in Bangalore for my pre-university course. I will seek the help of my family and friends to study for my examinations. I want to pass the Indian Police Services examination.
With the other groups, planning was easier, particularly since Myrada had been working in these villages, and people do have the experience of planning. The women of Hunkal Durga self-help group said,
all the 28 families in the village will make a representation to the Mandal Panchayat and arrange for tractors to fill up the ditch where we want our school building. We will mobilize the necessary support from the BDO and the AEO in Bangarpet and build our school.
The men of Vishweshwaraya Village Development Council, Hunkal Durga, said,
we want to completely root out illiteracy in our village. We will first call a meeting of all the village people. We shall gather data about the literate and illiterate people in the village and then divide ourselves into small groups which will take the responsibility to educate those who cannot read or write.
The final D in the 4D cycle of appreciative inquiry stands for doing.
We start with the discovering what gives life. Then we dream through envisioning what might be if we were always at our best. And then we decide how can we become. And the last step in that circle, it's not the last step, it's part of a circle, but it leads on to the delivery phase where you actually start implementing what you have done in the action plan.
Appreciative inquiry does not need to end with the implementation of the action plan. Because it is designed as a continuous cycle, a new round of discovery, dreaming, and designing can be initiated at any time. Creative facilitation is an important component of good appreciative inquiries. It is what ensures that each stage builds on the last, that dreaming is based on discovery, that design is based on dreams, and that the doing stage follows the action plan created in the design phase. At the end of this week of training, all of us felt that we were on to something that could work. To start on a positive note, to start with the process of discovery of strengths, and to start with a vision that is based on internal strengths rather than external inputs, is a good way to set in motion the processes of empowerment.
In Myrada already I feel that base is there. For example, the community what we are working, we say always possible. For example, a poor man able to save where others were thinking not possible. And we are able to, Myrada able to give a strong incidence that poor people able to run the institutions. So that way the practical base is there. And this particular concepts definitely I feel that add value for that one. So we may tend to neglect certain aspects. Because of this appreciative inquiry, I think it will definitely add value to the Myrada's thinking that people can able to do.
First of all, we've been thinking from the past, I think, 1.5 years about starting people and institutions off on a vision rather than just evolve somewhere and then think of a vision to do and things like that. So I think we've got a good tool where we can, start with building people's visions. And that was one area we found was a little weak in our whole assessment of how an institution is going, that they were not too clear about visions. Now I definitely think we have something. It's a breakthrough for us in that sense. This whole thing about appreciative inquiry could be an undercurrent in the kind of work we do. It does not negate some things that we do, or it does not throw something into the dustbin, but somewhere it adds a certain undercurrent to everything that we do, which might give us something new. And also for us, we thought it gives us something good to start off on a personal note. Each one of us gets a personal change, which then gets reflected in the work we do, and then it goes on and on and on. So that's what it is.
This workshop is only the beginning. We hope that this videotape provokes you into learning more about appreciative inquiry and using it in your work as we plan to learn and use it in ours.
ವಿಧ ವಿಧದ ಬೀಜಗಳ ಬಿತ್ತಿರುವರು, ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ತೂರಿಗೆಯ ಹೊತ್ತಿರುವರು, ವಿಧ ವಿಧದ ಬೀಜಗಳ ಬಿತ್ತಿರುವರು.